What if I told you that everything you're grinding for right now, the next promotion, the bigger apartment, the salary bump, the life you keep telling yourself you'll start living once things settle down, what if all of it is quietly stealing the only thing you can never get back? I'm 38 years old. I have stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. My oncologist told me months ago that we were running out of road. I have maybe 5 days left, probably less. And in the time I have remaining, I need to tell you something that nobody, no doctor, no motivational speaker, no perfectly filtered cancer survivor videos is going to tell you. This is me, sitting in this hospital bed with a tube in my nose and tears I've stopped bothering to wipe away, absolutely gutted by the choices I made when I still had choices. Because here is what nobody warns you about. You don't get a rehearsal. You don't get a gentle tap on the shoulder. One morning, you are a 38-year-old woman with a 5-year plan, a husband who adores you, and a list of places you've been meaning to visit for a decade. And then a scan changes everything. And suddenly, that list isn't a plan anymore. It's a eulogy. My name is Isabella. I spent my entire 30s being impressive, climbing, optimizing, building something I was told would matter. I missed sunsets because I had deadlines to meet. I missed weekends with my husband because I had deliverables. I told myself, just get to this next milestone, and then we'll take that trip to Greece. Then we'll start trying for a baby, and eventually we'll finally have time. We never took the trip. We never had the baby. And here is the part that breaks me open every single time I think about it. This year, 2026, it was supposed to be the year everything finally began. The year my husband and I were going to start our family. We had talked about it, planned it, waited for it responsibly the way you're supposed to, and instead, 2026 became the year I was told my cancer had spread too far for fertility preservation to even be an option. No trip, no baby, no after this. Just this hospital room, just this camera, just 5 days. You know what arrived in my email 3 weeks after my diagnosis? A message from my company congratulating me on being shortlisted for a leadership position I had spent 4 years working toward. 4 years, and when I read it, sitting here with an IV in my arm and a scan on the screen that told me my body was losing, I felt nothing. No. That's not right. I felt one thing. I felt furious. Furious at myself. Furious at the version of me that traded every beautiful, ordinary Tuesday for that email. I traded my life for a career. And the career didn't even notice when I got sick. So here is what I wish someone had grabbed me by the shoulders and screamed at me when I was 28. Sitting at my desk at 11 p.m., convinced I was building something important. The plan is a lie. The right time is a lie. The idea that joy is a reward you earn after enough sacrifice. That is the most expensive lie our culture sells, and I bought every single word of it. I had a colleague. Her name was Sophie. We started at the same company the same year. She quit at 32. People thought she was throwing everything away. She traveled for 8 months. She came back, took a smaller job, had 2 kids young, took a holiday every year, whether she could afford it perfectly or not. I thought she lacked ambition. I thought I was winning. Sophie is 38 years old and she is alive in a way I never let myself be. And I am here. Don't be here. Not like this. Not with a list of unlived things and 5 days to regret them. The appointment was supposed to be routine. That is the word I keep coming back to. Routine, a follow up, a formality. I had been so busy that I had actually rescheduled it twice. Once for a client call, once for a presentation that I cannot even remember now. I remembered the way my oncologist looked at his hands before he looked at me. That half second, that is when I knew. Metastatic, stage 4, widespread. He kept talking. I stopped hearing. Somewhere in the background of my own life, words like aggressive and limited options were arranging themselves into sentences. But all I could think about was a yellow notepad on my desk at home with a list on it. Greece, Cappadocia, start fertility consultations in March, anniversary dinner, and somewhere special this time. That list had been sitting there for 2 years. I always meant to get to it. In the time it took a doctor to say one word, every single thing on that list stopped being a plan and became a monument to waiting, to the magnificent catastrophic lie I had been living, that someday was a real place, that it was patient, that it would wait for me to finish being busy. It was never waiting. It was already gone. I was good at it. That is the hardest part to sit with. I was genuinely, exceptionally good at my work, and the world rewarded me for it constantly, so I kept going deeper in. By 34, I had the title. By 36, I had the salary that made people at dinner parties go quiet for a moment before changing the subject. I was disciplined in a way that other people called inspiring. Early mornings, late nights, weekends that dissolved into laptops and deadlines. I wore my exhaustion like a badge. I thought it meant I was serious. I thought it meant I was building something. My husband would stand in the doorway of my home office on a Friday evening, jacket on, keys in hand. That look on his face, like hopeful or then resigned, asking if I was almost done. I always said 20 more minutes. 20 minutes that turned into 2 hours every time, without fail, for years. I told myself the adventures were coming. I told myself we were in the building phase. I told myself that women like me, who worked this hard this young, got to enjoy everything later. Later. There is that word again. I spent a decade being impressive. I forgot to live inside it. I had a folder on my phone. Thousands of saved photos, organized by destination, accumulated over years of late nights when I would reward myself for finishing work by browsing places I promised myself were next. Cappadocia at sunrise from a hot air balloon. I had saved 14 different versions of that photograph. The way the light comes up gold and slow over the rock formations. The dozens of balloons rising in silence like something from a dream. I knew exactly which company we would book. I had read the reviews. I had never once looked at flights. The French Riviera could describe the precise shade of blue that the water turns at noon near Nice. Not turquoise, not navy. Something in between that exists only there, only in that light. I have never felt it. The Eiffel Tower at night, walking slowly, my husband's hand in mine, finally off the clock, finally just two people in love in a city built for exactly that. We talked about it on our third date. We never booked it, and Bangkok's night markets, and the noise, the heat, the smell of street food at midnight, feeling young and boundless and untethered from every spreadsheet and deadline that ever owned me. I visited all of it in my imagination. I was always too busy to go. There is a specific kind of grief that has no name. I have looked for it. I have sat in this bed and turned it over and over, trying to find the word that holds it, and there isn't one. Not in any language I know. My husband and I has decided this was our year. We were ready, finally, genuinely ready. And then my oncologist sat across from me and explained carefully, kindly, in the way doctors speak when they are delivering something they cannot soften, that fertility preservation was not straightforward, that the hormones required to retrieve my eggs would fuel the cancer that was already spreading, that he would do whatever I wanted ultimately, but he could not recommend it. That every week we waited was a week the disease moved further in. I had to choose between the treatment that might keep me alive and the procedure that might make me a mother. I want you to understand what that feels like. To have spent years telling yourself you were waiting for the right time to have a child and that sit in a beige office and discover that the waiting itself had quietly closed the door. Not cancer, not fate, the waiting. I chose treatment, I chose survival, and I have grieved that other choice every single day since. Nobody handed me this belief. That is what I need you to understand. Nobody sat me down and told me to postpone my life. I absorbed it the way you absorb everything that goes unquestioned, slowly, completely, until it felt like logic. There is a correct order. You build first, you sacrifice now, and live later. You earn the joy before you take it. Be responsible. Be strategic. The trip will mean more when you can truly afford it. The baby will come when the timing is right. The slow mornings and the long dinners and the spontaneous weekends, those are for people who have finished doing the important things first. I believed every word of it. What nobody tells you is that the sequence never completes. There is always one more rung before you're allowed to exhale. One more milestone stands between you and permission to actually inhabit your own life. The goalposts are not moved by circumstance, they are moved by the myth itself, which survives in your compliance, which needs you to keep waiting to keep functioning. I waited through my late 20s, I waited through my 30s. I kept my head down and trusted the sequence. The sequence did not save me. It just made sure I arrived at the end of my life with a very impressive resume and a folder full of places I never went. I want to talk about what the other videos don't show you, and the ones with the soft music and the carefully chosen words and the woman looking gently into the camera telling you that cancer taught her to appreciate every sunrise. I don't begrudge those women. I understand the impulse to find the light. But I need you to know what they are leaving out, because the part they leave out is the part that is most true. Nobody shows you the guilt, the particular suffocating guilt of watching your husband rearrange his entire life around your illness, of seeing exhaustion settle into his face and knowing you put it there, of feeling like the future you promised each other has become a weight he now carries alone. Nobody shows you the rage, the white-hot, unglamorous fury of being a woman who spent 15 years building an identity, capable, driven, someone who solved problems and met deadlines and delivered, and then having your body simply refuse to cooperate with any of it. Cancer does not care about your performance reviews. Nobody shows you the morning of your own ambition. The strange, disorienting grief of realizing the career you sacrificed everything for cannot sit with you in this room. It cannot hold your hand. It never once loved you back. The warrior narrative is clanner, but this is what it actually feels like. In the MBC communities, metastatic breast cancer, the group nobody applies to join, I have met women who made different choices. I have sat with their stories in the quiet hours of this room when sleep won't come, and I have turned them over carefully. The way you handle something that is both beautiful and painful to touch. There is a woman named Diane who left a senior marketing role at 34 because, as she put it, she looked up one Monday morning and could not remember the previous 3 years. She took 8 months and traveled through Southeast Asia.
Here you are, enjoy. Thank you, they look great. It smells amazing, best in the market.
People told her she was being reckless. She said she was being honest. She came back, rebuilt differently, and has spent the last 6 years actually inside her own life. There are others, women who chose the smaller salary and the fuller weekends, women who had the baby before the timing was perfect, women who booked the trip before they had paid off everything. Women who were told they were being irresponsible turned out to be the wisest people in every room. I do not envy them. Envy is too small a word for what I feel. What I feel is grief. Clean, specific grief that I understood the cost of waiting only after the waiting had already won. 3 nights ago, my husband fell asleep in the chair beside my bed the way he does now. Still dressed, still holding my hand, even in sleep. At some point, his phone slipped DD, and the screen lit up on the way down, and I caught it. It was a photograph. The Turkish coast at golden hour. Water so blue it looked invented, white stone. The sun coming down, slow and molten over the hills. I recognized it immediately. It was a place we had talked about on our honeymoon, lying in the dark, making the kind of promises that feel infinite when you are young and certain the time is something you have in abundance. I held that phone for a long time, and lying there in the specific silence of a hospital room at 3 a.m., I made a discovery that I was not prepared for. I'm not afraid of dying. I have made a kind of peace with dying that surprised me with how quietly it arrived. What I cannot make peace with, what splits me open every single time, is the not yet living, the unlived days, the unlocked door we kept walking past. That is the grief nobody warns you about, not the loss of your life, the remembering of all the times you had it fully in your hands and set it down. To go back to work, so here is what I need you to do. Not tomorrow, not after the next milestone, not when the timing improves, not when you finally feel ready. Now, today. While you still have the extraordinary, irreplaceable luxury of time that you are currently spending as though it is infinite. Book the trip. I don't care if the account isn't where you want it. I don't care if the timing is inconvenient. The Riviera will not wait forever, and neither will you, even though you believe otherwise with every cell in your body right now. Make the baby. Have the conversation. Don't let another year pass as filed under soon. Quit the job that is consuming you if it is consuming you. No title, no salary, no corner office will sit with you in this room in the end. I promise you that. I am living proof of that. Call your husband in the middle of a Tuesday for no reason. Tell him you'd love him before the feeling becomes urgent. Do it while it still feels ordinary, because ordinary is the most precious thing there is, and you will not know that until ordinary is gone. I made the mistake of believing I had time. You still have it. That is the only difference between us right now. Don't waste it, please, not one more day.